When I first arrived, Hong Kong was a very grey city. Even central Hong Kong was basically low-rise at that time. There was a mass exodus from China. The crowded buses and the crowded city streets were the only way to deal with this movement of masses of people. Was in fact an underground railway system.
After intensive study and debate in the 1960s, the Hong Kong legislature approved the building of a metro system, and in 1975, construction of the MTR began.
Hong Kong had never seen an underground railway, that we built it in one of the most densely populated cities in the world. It meant, for example, we were putting down sheet piles only 18 inches away from shop fronts.
Tunnelling was difficult, as the wet climate of Hong Kong had decomposed much of its native granite rock to coarse gravel.
But on occasions, telephoned me early in the morning to tell me they'd had to evacuate all the residents because the buildings had become unstable. They were built with footings instead of proper foundations.
係好惡劣嘅環境嚟嘅。冇一個正式嘅入口入條隧道度嘅，咁我哋咪就係落去捐落去，行條隧道去揾呢架車咯。
咁佢哋成日話餵蚊咯，
嗰啲蚊嚇驚你啊！
我哋嗰次都冇過海㗎，行隧道過去㗎，喺尖沙咀行過去金鐘。
Other than Japan, Hong Kong was then the only city in the world that was building a sizable underground. Without any such construction experience, a big recruitment drive was launched to find expertise from overseas and suitable talent locally.
I had some tunnel experience and also have some background in railway in New Zealand. And I was 29 years old. There were only 200 MTR staff when I arrived in February of 1976.
You were just excited about MTR, underground railway, 2-minute service, 3,000 people per train.
Eric Hui was among the first batch of 14 operations staff sent to the United Kingdom for 3 months to learn how to run a modern railway system.
We know nothing about railway. I can't even dream that I will be one day in London driving a Piccadilly line, up and down the line. Basically, I was scared.
After nearly 4 years of construction, the first section of the modified initial system, which is part of today's Kwun Tong line, was completed. Open days were organized as stations for the public to try out the system before the grand opening.
啲客咧就會未識用嗰個 system 咧，成日喺個 entry 機入完閘咧，就喺個 exit 機嗰度行翻出閘，就問我哋：咦，我哋搭咗車㗎啦，點解咁快出閘嘅咁樣？
The MTR quickly became a favorite mode of travel. When the service was extended to Hong Kong Island the following year, cross-harbour journey times were cut from a variable figure of sometimes hours to a reliable 4 minutes, redefining public transport in Hong Kong in more ways than one.
因為畢竟咧入嚟間公司都希望喺事業上有一番發展啦，嗰陣時仲後生。 咁入到嚟之後咧，唔覺遇到啲唔公平嘅嘢，咁因此就大家喺埋一齊，就想去反映，其實就咁嘅啫。不自覺地好似嚟咗個罷工裏邊。其實我哋好想話俾全世界聽咧，我哋其實唔中意港鐵或者以前嘅地鐵啦嚇，我哋唔係唔中意佢，就只不過係唔想見到一啲唔公平嘅一啲部門嘅行政嘅啫。 罷工之後咧，其實管理層咧、啲高級經理啊等等，佢都落咗去車站咧，同啲員工直接嘅對話同埋溝通，去了解下其實問題發生喺邊咧咁。我好高興咧，見到呢啲高級經理咧落到嚟傾嘅時候好有誠意，同埋完全冇怪責嘅意思。事實上我都有參與咗個罷工嘅，咁但喺4個月之後咧，我係被揀選咗去升職添。
So, what started as a major conflict became a long-lasting partnership between staff and management. MTR's culture evolved positively, and it was a pioneer in the introduction of core values. Under the principles of customer service, respect for the individual, and on time and within budget, MTR staff at all levels started working together as one entity, and the company grew from strength to strength. But the challenges that MTR faced also grew. As the public became increasingly reliant on the MTR to get around, they had less tolerance for any delays or disruptions to train service. Through each event, the MTR learned and strived to improve its operation, incident response, and maintenance regimes. As a result, the railway is operating more reliably than when it was brand new. In 2004, MTR faced one of its biggest tests.
當然，我當時係唔知道，其實後來我知道係縱火，仲有啖氣嗰陣時咧，我就繼續逼個 PA 咧，叫乘客開始向後走啦。我要顧住全車乘客嗰個安危啦。我一見到月台嗰個光咧，我開始有啲興奮啦。到啦，可以有救啦咁樣。
We have done enormous amounts of contingency training, right? So what you don't see, overnight sometimes we will have a train running, we will simulate a fire, we set off smoke bombs in it, we will have volunteers on that train, sometimes as many as 2,000.
Through the years, countless behind-the-scene efforts have been made at stations, on trains, and in the infrastructure to enhance the passenger experience.
We have done over thousands of modifications on the train to make it more reliable. In fact, these trains that we bought in 1975 are still in service.
In the wake of the railway's development, old communities were revitalized and new modern communities built through the unique and very successful rail plus property development business model. Profits from property sales are reinvested to build new lines, allowing the MTR to operate day-to-day without government subsidy.
You saw this open area used for a depot, and the thought came, this is not a very good use of urban land. And that's where Telford Gardens came from.
Shopping centres, office buildings and residential buildings, all inside a single complex. The car ownership level in Hong Kong in the past few years has maintained at a very low level. It's simply because of the convenience of the public transport.
There is a complementary, if you like, value creation arising from railway and property. That was the whole foundation on which MTR was founded, that MTR would operate on a commercially viable basis.
In 1997, Hong Kong's sovereignty was returned to mainland China. But for the MTR, there was little time to celebrate. It was heading into the final stages of construction for the Airport Express and Tung Chung line to ensure the availability of an efficient rail service when the new airport opened the following year.
The Airport Express also brought in many unprecedented features. All airlines in-town check-in service, which is a world's first. And of course, we mustn't forget the octopus is also a byproduct.
The MTR soon persuaded the 5 major transportation operators in the territory to join the innovative Octopus scheme, which has grown exponentially to become the world's first and most popular contactless smart card payment system.
People loved the fact that it would work inside a handbag or inside your wallet, and they loved it being able to be used on all the transport modes.
In 2000, the MTR took on a new identity as a publicly listed company after the government sold 23% of its stake in the corporation. Shares were 20 times oversubscribed.
Many of the big IPOs, a lot of the shares are placed to institutions. But in the case of the MTR IPO, we actually had over 500,000 shareholders when we started, which is an enormous amount of shareholders to have.
In 2007, the MTR marked another major milestone, a merger with the government-owned Kowloon Canton Railway.
There was very active discussions, and it took a long time. From the start to end, it was 3 years and 10 months. We took advantage of the long time to plan it meticulously. Every step was planned for the day of the merger.
Getting the two groups of people with different backgrounds together always posed challenges. We held cultural integration workshop and invited staff from both companies to join together to talk about their past ways of working, to talk about their expectations. We also engaged them in designing the future work method and to adopt the best practices.
We have changed 170,000 items overnight.
We employ a lot of some contractor staff who are six feet tall. So they don't have to use the ladder, they just stand there and they will change the signage.
When the customer walk in 6 o'clock, so they see everything is under one logo.
It is nothing to do with monopoly because you have the buses in competition. The opposition to the idea is that you are creating a monopoly, but in fact it's not true. It has all the advantages of economy of scale, synergy, and positive collaboration rather than a very negative resistance.
The merger has sort of strengthened overnight our the sustainability of our balance sheet. That also gave us more firepower and muscle to develop our international business.
From a new kid on the block to becoming a leading rail company in the world, the MTR logo can now be seen in Shenzhen, Beijing, London, Melbourne and Stockholm. At home, following completion of its first tourism project, the Nongping 360 cable car system in 2006, the MTR is busy constructing 5 new lines, including the express rail link connecting into mainland China's high-speed rail network. As before, the temporary inconvenience will bring sustained growth and development for Hong Kong.
即係由觀塘至到石硤尾，事隔30年可以 develop 到全世界都有我哋嘅鐵路咯。即係作為一個就嚟退休嘅同事咧，我會覺得係好光榮嘅一件事咯。
The railway would create value wherever it goes. A new town is born because the railway goes there.
我都同爸爸一樣，應該都做足一世㗎啦。應該講係啦，我已經決定咗啦。20歲人已經知道我嘅人生。
Every staff has a role to play. Every staff has a word to say.
We have to respect tradition, respect what we have done in the past, but really we have to have the open mind to accept new challenges.
We'll have to make sure 5 years out, 10 years out, is still a positive experience.
We couldn't have been the economic and financial centre that we are without the MTR.
Railways is part of a community. The service in a railway, the assets of a railway have to change with the community. We not only build railways to meet transportation needs, but also to meet the community's needs.